We often imagine medieval bakeries as simple places that produced a few plain staples and nothing more. But what if I told you that medieval bakers were solving problems that modern bakeries have completely forgotten how to solve? Not just taste, not just texture, but survival, status, storage and transport, without plastic wrap, without refrigeration, and without industrial sugar. In the Middle Ages, baked goods weren't just treats. They were tools. They were containers. They were portable meals. They were luxury signals. And they were sometimes designed to last so long that fresh wasn't even the goal. In this video, you'll discover 7 medieval bakery foods: pastries, cakes, biscuits, rusks, and handheld baked meals that either disappeared from mainstream life or evolved into something modern people wouldn't recognize. And at the end, a surprising truth about what we traded away when we replaced bakery craft with bakery convenience. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever bought pastries that look perfect in the display case, but feel empty 10 minutes later? Or cookies so sweet they stop tasting like food? Or a fresh baked item that goes stale before tomorrow? That's not just nostalgia talking. That's what happens when baking becomes about speed, softness, and shelf-ready appearance instead of function. If you've ever felt like modern baked goods are designed for photos, not for life, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm to share this with others who care about real food history. Now, let's uncover what medieval bakeries were really making. Number 1. Coffins. The pastry container that wasn't trying to be delicious. Today, we treat pastry like a luxury. Flaky, buttery, delicate. Medieval bakers often did the opposite. The coffin was a thick, rigid pastry shell designed to hold food like a sealed container. The crust could be inches thick, stiff enough to stand on its own, and strong enough to protect the filling from heat, handling, and time. Here's the part modern people miss. In many cases, the shell wasn't the point. The shell was packaging. The value was inside: meat, fish, spiced mixtures, rich gravies. In wealthy households, coffins became a stage for status: expensive ingredients, rare spices, and elaborate fillings. But the crust itself could be discarded, fed to servants, or given away. It's the opposite of a modern pie, where the crust is half the pleasure, and that tells you something deep about class. The elite could afford to waste the container. The working class couldn't. When you hear medieval pastry, don't picture a dessert shop. Picture edible engineering. Number 2. Pasties. The medieval answer to the sandwich, before sandwiches existed. People love to argue about who invented the sandwich, but medieval life didn't wait for a name. Medieval bakers created a sealed, handheld meal that did the sandwich job better than most modern lunches. The pasty was a complete meal inside pastry: meat, vegetables, sometimes fruit or cheese, sealed to keep it safe and portable. It was clean food for dirty hands. And that matters when your day is labor, travel, mud and work. Early versions show up in high-status contexts, but the genius of pasties is that they eventually belong to everyone, because a baked meal you can carry is always valuable. Modern pastries are fragile. Medieval pasties were built to be handled, to be thrown into a bag, to be eaten in the field, to survive the day. Compare that to today's grab-and-go culture, where a sandwich needs plastic, refrigeration, and a napkin just to survive an hour. Medieval bakers built portability into the food itself. Number 3. Oberlets. The forgotten street wafer that modern waffles can't replace. If you walk through medieval towns, You didn't just smell bread ovens. You smelled iron presses heating over fire. Obales were thin, crisp wafers cooked between patterned irons and sold like street food. Fast, light, and endlessly snackable. But here's what makes them different from modern waffles. Modern waffles are soft, sweet, and heavy. Medieval obales were crisp, dry, and designed to last. More like a wafer you could carry, stack, and sell without spoilage. They were part of public life. Vendors, markets, quick bites with spiced drinks. A medieval bakery wasn't only a shop. It was sometimes a street economy. Today, the technology survived. Waffle irons exist everywhere. But the medieval product mostly vanished from everyday life. What we kept was the shape, not the function. Number 4. Marchpane, the cake that existed to prove you were rich. Modern cakes are soft celebrations. Medieval cakes often weren't. Marchpane was a dense almond and sugar confection shaped, formed, and sometimes baked. Served not because you were hungry, but because you had wealth and taste to display. Almonds were not cheap. Sugar was not cheap. Rosewater and imported spices were not cheap. That means marchpane belonged to the upper class. It was banquet theatre. It was status you could eat. And here's the evolution. It becomes marzipan. Still around, but reduced. In the Middle Ages, a marchpane could be a centerpiece. Now, marzipan is a detail. The ingredient survived. The cultural meaning died. If you want your video to hit hard, make this point clearly. Medieval luxury baking wasn't about sweetness. It was about scarcity. It was about imported ingredients and social signal. Number 5. Gyngerbrede, medieval gingerbread that wasn't a cookie. When people hear gingerbread, they imagine baked cookies, crisp edges, holiday shapes. Medieval gyngerbrede was a different creature. Honey heated with spices, thickened with breadcrumbs, pressed into forms. More like a dense confection than a baked biscuit. That breadcrumb detail is everything. It tells you medieval bakers used what they had. It also tells you why this food existed. Preservation and energy. Honey keeps. Spices were valued. The texture carried well. It made sense for fairs, travel, gifts, and status. Over time, refined sugar becomes common. Butter and flour dominate. Gingerbread becomes a modern cookie. The medieval form disappears. Same name, different food. And class again matters. Spices were not a peasant flavour. Spices were the taste of trade routes. The taste of wealth. The taste of people who could afford expensive flavour. Number 6. Jumbles. The biscuit you don't recognise anymore. Jumbles were early biscuits, often looped or knotted, flavoured with seeds and perfume-like notes. Caraway, anise, rosewater. They were meant to keep. They were meant to travel. They were meant to be served with drink. Not as kids' sweets, but as adult food with a purpose. Now compare that to modern cookies. Soft, sugary, designed to be eaten immediately. Medieval biscuits were often the opposite. Firm, durable, built for storage, and flavoured in ways modern palates barely use. The evolution is simple. We kept the cookie idea. We lost the biscuit function. We traded endurance for softness. We traded complex spice profiles for plain sweetness. Number 7. Rusks. The baked food designed to survive months. This is where medieval baking becomes pure survival engineering. Rusks were baked, sliced, and baked again until moisture was driven out. That meant long shelf life. That meant food that didn't rot quickly. That meant travel without fear. Soldiers, travellers, and monasteries relied on this. Because when you remove moisture, decay slows down. The item becomes hard, yes, but it becomes dependable, and medieval life valued dependable food more than fresh. Rusks weren't eaten like modern cookies. They were soaked, wine, broth, ale, then eaten as a meal again. Modern versions exist in niche form, but the everyday logic is gone. Our baked goods are designed for immediate pleasure. Their baked goods were designed for time. Now step back and notice the pattern. Medieval bakeries weren't just selling dessert. They were running systems. They created portable meals for workers, containers for kitchens, status foods for nobles, street wafers for markets, long-lasting biscuits for travel. Their baked goods mapped onto class and daily life. The poor valued durability, calories, and practicality. The rich valued scarcity, spices, almonds, sugar, and display. Medieval taste wasn't just flavour. It was economics. It was identity. And here's the surprising truth that connects all 7 items. Most of them didn't disappear because they tasted bad. They disappeared because modern life made them unnecessary. Plastic replaced pastry containers. Refrigeration replaced preservation baking. Industrial sugar replaced spice complexity with sweetness. And convenience replaced craft. The question isn't whether medieval baking was better. The question is whether our baking still serves us, or whether it just sells to us. If you want more forgotten daily life history under medieval skies, subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 7 foods surprised you most. I read every single one. This isn't about copying the past. It's about understanding the knowledge people once needed just to live. Under medieval skies, food wasn't made to look perfect. It was made to work. And that changes everything.